There we go. We are live here. I'm waiting to see if, because now I'm monitoring this. And why don't I see it? I guess it's gonna have a little. Okay, here we go. There it is. Okay, so now I know we're live everywhere. I am Julian Catario from Jalapa, Veracruz. I'm with Sacred Blue Heron Women in Indianola, Oklahoma. And we're doing the 108th version of Wahine Living Conversations. This is a conversation about matriarchal societies. Mana, how do you pronounce that? Mana Wahine?
I think that's how it's said in Hawaiian.
Okay.
It's the divine feminine.
Okay. And well, I'm gonna let you to describe what it is, and I'm not gonna give any more introductions. So I think that's fair enough. That's plenty of introduction. So let's get this started because we want to know what it is. What is
what are matriarchal cultures, societies,
right. Mm-hmm.
or Mana Wahine? Because we don't want people to just go to one extreme. So, and we'll get there in 2 minutes here, in less than 2 minutes. So bringing our world into balance or dynamic equilibrium means being dynamic equilibrium and peace at every level, between the sexes, between the generations, between the different groups. So here we are. The term matriarchy needs to be defined before we even go any further.
Mm-hmm.
So for women, this means remembering the wisdom of cultures that were and are created by women. So we are not following the current male biased understanding of the term matriarchy, and I'm not smashing on men, but we're not following the general understanding because there's plenty of females that would have this bias too, as meaning the rule of women or domination by the mothers. Mm-hmm. It is most commonly interpreted this way because it seems to be the obvious parallel to the patriarchy, but that would just be the opposite side of the same coin. We're on a different coin here.
Mm-hmm.
So the word arche in Greek, which is Greek, has a double meaning. It means the beginning as well as domination. So we are choosing right here and now to stand on this platform of mothers from the beginning. That's what matriarchy means. Mothers from the beginning, or the mothers from the beginning. Mm-hmm. Patriarchy could then also be translated as fathers from the beginning, although this translation has led to domination by the fathers, because not having any natural right to beginning for men means that men have to force their right to be first through domination. Because, and I'm not smashing on men, I'm not stepping on men, but a man can't carry a baby. That's the difference, right? So since mothers clearly are the beginning because of the capacity to carry the baby and bring forth life, mothers generally have no need to enforce their place in the social order of domination. And as we understand fully, we love men because it takes the sperm to fertilize the ova, and we love men for more than that. Equality with different characteristics. So there really does not need to be a social order of domination at all. So this is why I keep focusing, saying we're not stomping on men here. We're not. We're focusing on, with matriarchal societies, equality with different characteristics.
Yeah. And then you're probably going to talk about how nature is an essential part of that society, how Mother Nature.
Yeah, well,
You're gonna get there, right?
yeah, we'll get there.
Okay.
So, but before we get there, let's take a spin through this utopia of the motherless world we have been programmed, domesticated into.
Okay, let's go there. Because then let's set the stage where there's this. We live in a society that we would think we're natural and living a natural life, but no, we've been hijacked. That's why I like to think of that way.
Domesticated.
And brought it into this weird, crazy, psychotic type of civilization and mindset that is totally foreign to nature and to earth and to the cycles and to everything.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So
keep going.
Patriarchy is a civilization, quotation marks, dependent on matriarchy. Patriarchies have never existed based on their own capacities and have never had their own independent civilizations. They just simply developed after the conquest of matriarchal societies.
Okay.
What we call civilization today is a dependent patriarchal civilization that has been built on matriarchy everywhere on this planet. In reality, patriarchy is a mixed society which depends on matriarchy for its life while it dominates.
Mm-hmm.
So patriarchy is militarization instead of civilization because it's a war system. Matriarchal societies are societies of peace. Patriarchal societies came into the world by conquest, by war. And war is not just violence. It is organized mass violence based on calculated planning. Let's get that right. Let's get that out there. War is not just violence. It is calculated planning.
It's a business. It's not
a business. Absolutely right. It's a business of calculated genocide.
Mm-hmm.
After the conquest, war continues and it becomes institutionalized. So the war now takes the form of the state.
Okay.
It has to be more militarized than civilized because it has to be protected from being dissolved by the people and by life, because this is not natural. Life will naturally dissolve this. So
okay.
Then
that's
the belief in violence becomes the general religion of the patriarchy, of a patriarchal society. So when we investigate what patriarch or father means, we find that fathers are allegedly legitimate rulers over conquered paradises that have been transformed into kingdoms or empires of the sky and on earth. Wow. Fathers are supposed to be the real creators of life and wealth, being somehow mothers too. The earthly fathers and patriarchs, however, get into difficult situations because they have to prove in reality that they are able to create, and that this creation is the highest and best, and that they can replace the supposedly lower forms of existing creation with their higher and best creation. This is their utopia. So what is it that the fathers create, and how have they done it? Well, the first patriarchal creation is creation out of destruction. The looting that takes place during war provides wealth and life to warriors and their society. So the cult of the artificially produced second, the non-natural death that occurs through war, murder, torture, rape, and other forms and techniques of violence. Let's say that again, the non-natural death that occurs through rape, that's the biggest one, torture, right? That's a non-natural death because you're killing something inside that person.
Mm-hmm.
The second main creation of patriarchy is a so-called creation out of nothing. It is based on the invention of a fictitious life and world beyond the existing one, a metaphysical, supposedly existing second, higher and better life and world, heaven, off-planet, with no clue of what this looks like other than streets paved with gold and mansions made of gold. That's the Christian songs, the hymns that they sing about streets paved with gold and mansions made. It just dawned on me. I sang those all my life, my entire life, right?
Okay.
Heraclitus, if that's pronounced right, once said that war is the father of all things. So if we look at the methods and principles of this alchemy, we see the divide and rule programming that we are living by and programmed to live by. So the first step in this alchemical creation is called mortification, which means bringing death to living matter. What does war do? It brings death to living matter. This occurs in order to take control over matter and is mostly done by using fire. The process finishes with a sort of black matter, which is considered to be the primordial matter out of which life can then come into being. In the case of working with metals as matter, the alchemist continues his work based on the black matter as his materia prima, which he has produced by fire. In the second step, the alchemist tries to produce silver, which he calls white matter, by adding mercury, which would be the semen, into the materia prima, mostly lead, to create silver. Now he tries to produce yellow matter or gold by adding sulfur as semen into the silver, into the ovum of silver, right? Gold is considered the highest of all matter. But in the fourth step, red matter, a form of red gold, can eventually result from adding coral semen into the gold. This substance is next to what is called the philosopher's stone, matter that contains all the creative life forces that will finally allow the alchemist to become a godlike creator. This alchemical process can also occur using as base plants or animals, organic or inorganic substances. It all depends on what type of creation the alchemist is interested in. If human life is concerned, the alchemical process occurs with a base of human blood and sperm, with which the alchemist tries to produce a homunculus, or a little man, in a test tube. For this creation, no mother is needed aside from female blood as substance. So the alchemist's intent is to create a utopian life, a life utopos, which means that it is life or matter without a genuine place on earth, without origin, without a navel, without the participation of real persons, except the alchemist himself, without a centrist concrete locality, without love, without a mother, especially without Mother Earth. That is what utopia is, per a patriarchal culture.
Wow.
So the alchemist wants to become an independent creator who is able to force life into existence. The problem with the general alchemical procedure is that there is dead matter after its mortification, brought together with more or less dead matter that has been abstracted and isolated from its original soundings. So this alchemist of antiquity seems to have had a mechanical view of nature and life. In modern times, the mechanical view has become the foundation of progress, and as such is confronted with its constant failure. It has sought to overcome this problem by combining dead matter with living matter and creating the cyborg. The creation of real new life in this way is in fact impossible, because life cannot and is not created mechanically. Ways to combine dead matter with living matter was the result of industrialization, which brought about a new technology. the machine, and the definition of human labor linked to and combined with machinery. So during the workday, the laborer himself, the first cyborg actually, was transformed into a combination of something living with something dead, the machinery. From this stems the definition of a human being's labor power as something that can be disposed of as a commodity and sold to the owner of the machinery. The laborer is then a combination of separate parts, namely his or her labor power, which belonged to the machine, and himself as a living being. A commodity. The laborer from then on, like a cyborg, is neither really alive nor really dead, but rather a living machine, a commodity, living a life that is half dead because it has to be given away or sold as part of the labor process. Progress needs, in a patriarchal society, progress needs sacrifice from others. Not from the alchemist, from others.
Yeah.
The alchemist is not looking with enchantment into the world. He or she does not respect the forms that nature brings into existence. He or she does not wonder about the beauty and grace of her beings. So in general, capitalism can be defined as a society in which all things, including people and nature, are sought to be transformed into commodities in order to profit from them. When dead things are forced together in a factory, they come out as commodities, as double dead things. They are dead because of their mortification into raw materials, out of raw materials. And because of using up labor power during their production process. The past life of nature and the past life of the laborer are composing the commodity. So commodities are not just dead, they are dead forever and ever and ever. Wow. The way of the commodity then is paved with violent death from the beginning to its end. Only in its appearance does the commodity seem to be related to nature and life in a positive way. And this is a completely new situation on our planet Earth because natural death is normally followed by new life, as we see every winter. Right? The trees die every year and drop their leaves in those areas further away from the equator where you actually have seasons.
Yeah.
Right? They drop their leaves every winter, they die, and they produce new life in the spring. So, and you can even see it. I mean, your trees, the trees in places like where you live, where you don't have the winter that drops leaves, you still see, I mean, the trees I brought into my greenhouse, I'm still seeing them put on new buds. So you still see the appearance of new life. So patriarchal creation, therefore, does not lead to an artificial new paradise, but an artificial hell on earth. So the GMO is a living commodity, the genetically modified organism, a machine made out of nature parts consisting of a combination of at least 2 different living genes. Yet it has no genealogy, no natural history, no mother, no morphological field, and no species to which it belongs. It knows no stability, no meaning in itself, and no place in the cycle of life and death. It is not embedded within nature, and it's not related to biodiversity. It is utopian, and it is irreversible. Capitalist money contains all the former steps of the alchemy process, all former life, violence, and death. Fetishists paradoxically perceive it more alive than anything else. They are assured by the fact that modern money as a system is organized as if it is fertile via the interest it generates. It can be seen as growing as if it were getting children and grandchildren, so much so that we forget about the real fertility as an ability of nature alone. and do not find it scandalous when nature is rendered infertile and destroyed. So money has become a sort of philosopher's stone, a concentration of life energy with which we can create more life whenever and wherever we want, but yet it's not real life, it's double death. Money is not alive, nor is it fertile, and it does not create life. It is the emptiness, the no thing that is left after the great transformation took place that started to liquidate matter and nature and people, leaving them behind for the liquidity of the money system. Nature is showing us that she does not want to be transformed into an all-chemical paradise. You cannot transform money, the commodity, the machine, the capital, or a GMO back into living nature again. This kind of alchemy is a one-way undertaking only, and progress always needs more sacrifice from others. Right? That's the way of progress that invades nations. That's why we call, Mexico and Latin America third world nations. I don't think we consider Mexico a third world country, because we need you to sacrifice all your goods so you can progress to become a first world nation, right? It's just so freaking stupid. While we are told to become intelligent, wealthy, healthy, democratic, free, sensitive, civilized, equal, strong, and beautiful, the opposite is really true. Something within us, something of our lives, our work, our behavior, our thoughts, our feelings, our future has become commodified. We have at least partially become capital. We have become living machines. We are obeying nearly every order we are given. We seek mimesis with money as if it is the transcendental subject of mankind. And spiritual gurus are all part of this too. Still, because everything's based on money, 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 money. So we are still alive, but only partly. We are told that it is only our labor power and not ourselves that is used as a commodity. So we think we are free people with a free life. The reality is that there can be no separation between you and your labor power. It is your life energy, your eros, your brain, your fantasy, your creativity, your imagination, your dreams, your sex, your soul and spirit that is subsumed in your transformation into a commodity. The separation between us and our labor power is a fiction. If we are treated like commodities, we are forced to transform our life energy accordingly. We are called upon to kill parts of ourselves, divide and conquer ourselves, purify ourselves, take special abilities out of ourselves, force them back together again, and then try to reconfigure ourselves, believing all the while that this will lead us to the best life we can possibly have. Emotionally, we have to identify with this self-alchemization and enter into a mimetic relationship with ourselves as commodities, not as living beings. So how much of us has been and still is capital? How long can we make money out of our life, energy, body, brain, organs, labor, and ourselves? And how long can we function like a machine? Karl Marx called the violence that we are committing against ourselves economic violence, in contrast to the direct political violence that comes from outside. The slave, he said, has to be forced to go to work, and yet we force ourselves to go to work. We gladly force ourselves to go to work. Not only that, there's a huge percentage of our population that gladly forces ourselves into prison every day. As prison guards, right? It's just befuddling. So you put yourself in jail every day, gladly. We are called to justify this partial suicide of ourselves and the partial murder of others as progress and development. In reality, it is a deadly alienation and separation from interconnectedness with life that we are forcing upon ourselves and our children. We are prisoners in jail, behaving like inmates that will never be released. So we can experiment with gift giving. We can choose to lose faith in violence and start to trust life on earth. So matriarchy demonstrates gender equality on the basis of the female model. In the last decades, feminists have insisted on equality with men according to a male model, the standard, and within a culture which consists of institutions based on dominant male models. A society based on the mortification, militarization, and monetization called capitalism creates the illusion that this is a reality to which there is no alternative and which there is no way out. So now is the time to radically shift from the norm of this mortification, militarization, monetization construction to the norm of the mother, making the mother the prototype of the category human. That would mean that the nurturing characteristic of the mother would be considered human, not just a female characteristic. Both male and female human beings can then find a context where they can practice their maternal humanity. The love of power over is a value for the triple M system, the MMMMM system, while the power of love, Munai, is a value of matriarchal societies. This allows for egalitarianism that is based on the appreciation of diversity, of difference. So we can also look at these two kinds of societies as based on two ways of behaving economically, or two economics logics. One is gift giving, the direct satisfaction of needs. The other is exchange, giving in order to receive an equivalent. These two ways of meeting needs constitute two different modes of distribution. Gift giving, which is evident in mothering, has a logic of its own. It is transitive and creates positive relations in community. Gift giving takes place not only in mothers, it actually permeates the exchange system, which even though the exchange system seems to stand alone, they could not take place without gift giving, the exchange system. Exchange, which is giving in order to receive an equivalent, is different from gift giving. Where gift giving creates solidarity and trust, exchange creates adversarial stances of each against all, as each person tries to get more than others from the transaction. Right? Because everybody's perception is different. So everybody's perception of the equivalent is going to be different. So there's constantly going to be war over what's equivalent in an exchange system when you're giving in order to receive an equivalent. Mm-hmm. Gift giving creates bonds while exchange breaks them. Exchange requires measurement and quantification, while gift giving is mainly qualitative. Exchange is ego-oriented, while gift-giving is other-oriented. Exchange is transitive, while gift-in is atransitive. Now, exchange is intransitive, while gift-giving is transitive.
Now, what does that mean?
I was just thinking that myself. Why didn't I look that up? Intransitive. Let's look that up. If I can spell it right.
Well, I can do it.
Not passing further. It's kept or detained. That's what intransitive is.
Okay.
And it does not, it's a verb that does not entail a direct object.
I know about transitive and intransitive verbs in grammar. Never heard
it. I don't know that.
Already? Yeah, we get. I don't even know what they are, but I remember the name.
So exchange is really a double gift, a gift turned back on itself that then actually cancels the gift by the equal return.
Okay.
So gift giving is the basis of our humanity, and this includes men as well. It's the basis of a man's humanity as well.
Mm-hmm.
Matriarchies have communicative economies, that is, economies based on giving and receiving material goods that reinforce the material and spiritual subjectivity of the receiver and the positive other-oriented agency of the giver. These effects allow the development of Wahine among givers and receivers, as well as among all members of community in which gifts freely circulate. This kind of society is actually justice, unlike the hierarchy of the triple M system that forces the gifts to be given to those at the top only. Colonialism can be seen in this light as the takeover of other economies, many of which were gift economies, in order to establish and control a flow of gifts from them towards the colonizing country. Markets impose a distribution without gift giving because the goods and services are given in order to receive an equal change. And instead of giving value to the other, they actually give value only to the self, using the need of life of the other as means rather than the end itself. So actually, the reality is markets float on a sea of gifts because housework, child raising, and so many more are gifts women are giving to the market economy. All the free acts of kindness and community that we practice on a daily basis can be considered gifts and part of an economy of kindness that softens the market and makes it livable. So then you could say, well, we can just keep on. Well, no, we can't, because no, we just can't. So there are folk theories that justify categorization as a male, that say males are born male by luck or perhaps deserve to be male by the superiority of their spirits. They might even say that being born, they risked becoming females, but by their good fortune, they were placed in the superior category of males. So later, they have to deserve their manly privilege by hard work and the same kind of individuating isolation that the market process provides. Let's say those words again, individuating isolation. That's what we're all about. Individuating isolation. I have to be an individual. My path is not the same as yours, therefore I can't join an adult cohabitation dehesa because my path is not the same as yours. I'm individuated, isolated, because my path is not the same as yours.
Mm-hmm.
Well, yes, no, your spiritual journey is not the same path as mine, but we all have means to live. So therefore your path is exactly the same as mine.
We actually do need to be on the same boat.
Absolutely. We do, but this individuating isolation has us so freaking fooled.
Mm-hmm.
Masculinity is not a biologically based gender identity. Okay. Should I say that again?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Masculinity is not a biologically based gender identity. It is an identity formed by an ideological process that can be embraced by women as well as men and by people from all cultures. Taking this false male gender construction as a standard broadens the false judgment that males are not like their gift-giving mothers, so that it extends to everyone. And then from that, we are taught the falsity that humans are basically non-giving, and that most humans have to be forced by others to give, and so they are victims, while those who have the power are admired as successful predators. So the victims then are supposedly unlucky, incompetent, afraid to risk, and lacking in many abilities, like being aggressive.
Mm-hmm.
So this triple M system says that one gender, and one gender only, the male, will not meet needs because it's not inherent in the male to meet needs as mothers do. That's the lie that they're telling. It's not inherent in you, Julian, to meet the needs of your kids like a mother would. Is that true? No, you meet the needs of your kids, do you not?
I hope so.
You know you do. So in the social domestication of children, this implies that in order to take up a male social and sexual role as an adult, the child has to give up the maternal economic identity from his earliest days. Making an adult sex role contingent on the child's adopting a certain economic behavior places him in a system of exchange already, because then sex becomes the reward or payoff for not giving behavior. That is, he gives up gift giving and will eventually be allowed to be a male sex agent, and if he can act according to the manhood agenda and be the breadwinner of the house. So therefore he is the male sex agent. He is a sex agent.
Yeah.
It explains a lot. That took me a while I was writing that. But it just percolated through and made me realize that is where the whole Christian thing of unequal that just came up with the relationship that just ended with me. I can't marry you because I'm better than you. I can't have sex with you outside of marriage because I'm not your breadwinner. But while he was clearly in my life as a sex agent. But I'm not angry with him or feeling victimized because I know he doesn't know. But I'd read this a few months ago, but once I was writing this to prepare for learning, for learners, it was like, oh, wow, that was so evident. That is so evident. That's why Christianity says you have to be married. Because he has to be the breadwinner. That's the only way he can be a certified sex agent, is to be the bread. That's why sex is holy. Marriage, God, it's such a convoluted, stupidity.
Wow.
Since gift giving and receiving are inherent in us as inherent in us as Aine is, boys then are placed in a problematic situation where they are turned away from the gift economy as children, and a substitute for gift giving is made available to them, which is hitting. Hitting, like giving, reaches out and touches the other person and establishes a relationship through harm rather than nurture. Furthermore, it establishes a relation of hierarchy rather than mutuality or Aine, because gratuitous hitting calls for payback, and so fights begin on the basis of exchange, revenge, and honor. Backyard brawls prepare boys not only for participation in the market, but for wars fought on the market principles of the escalating exchanges of blows, attacks, and reprisals. The loser nation is forced to give up and give to the winner, and in the process take on the female subjugated position. Even religions that might propose the gift model are unquestioningly promoting exchange. Take the Judeo-Christian idea of payment for the original sin. And that, in fact, is what the triad of the world domination is based on, that concept of original sin.
Okay.
So, and there's many ways of hitting. And since I wrote this, I've realized that's when I became a parent, the only tool in the toolbox my parents had, both my mother and father, was hitting, and I hated it. I despised them both for it. Absolutely despised them both for it. And so when I became a mother, I said I wanted something different than hitting in my toolbox. But I realize it's very much still, because that's the first reaction. First reaction. It's like it is, right? with the goats, with everything, my first reaction is to smack. Right? It's been so since then I've been walking every day is like, show me how to be different. Show me. This is ingrained, this turning away from the gift giving to hitting. And there are so many ways to hit, not just physical.
Yeah.
So
And it's ingrained because, I mean, more than you would think. You know, I was somebody that wasn't, my parents didn't use that at all. But then I myself sometimes have that, you know, that kind of intuition. Well, I don't hit my kids, but I will, like, if the cat is biting me, my first reaction is to smack him as well.
Yeah, right. It is such a natural reaction. And with my girls, I said it that, right, I would try everything first. And if I resorted to spanking, they would get only one smack. Because with my dad, it was, I'm gonna beat you till you cry, and then I'm gonna beat you till you stop crying.
Okay.
So if you tried to be brave and not cry to make the beating shorter, it didn't work.
Okay.
So then it became a study into how to turn tears on and off unnaturally, right? It was such bullshit. And that's why I just absolutely despised it. I despised him for the longest time because of that. But it finally, when I became a parent, I realized that I couldn't despise him. It was just the way he had been taught, right? That's all he knew. But I chose to be different. So when I became a mother and started reading different parenting books and coming up with different tools in my toolbox, I decided that if I needed to resort to spanking, they would always only get one smack, and I would make that one smack count. So, yeah. Anyway, it took that really, this is why there's a whole difference between reading and then absorbing it while you're writing it to present to someone else.
Yeah.
I was like, wow, that hit me like a bucket of ice water, basically. So matriarchies do not divide males from females economically in childhood. Adult males are still expected to behave economically like their mothers. They do not have to reject mothering economics in order to become sexually adequate males. Breaking the connection between masculine sexuality and the rejection of gift giving will eliminate much of the motivation towards capitalist accumulation. It is male gender as an economic identity that is a problem. Once again, I'm not hitting on men, right? I'm not smashing men. Remember, we just said male gender is not a biological thing. You are the male gender identity. What was the word? Of course, I'm not going to find it now.
Was it
right?
Transitive? Transitive?
No, it was before that.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not gonna, masculinity. There it is. Masculinity is not a biologically based gender identity. Masculinity. That's the word I want, not, So, it is it is masculinity that is an economic identity. That is the problem, not the male gender. Let me change that right now, because this will, if I don't, it is masculinity, the concept of masculinity as an economic identity. That is the problem.
Okay.
Sexuality is simply another way of giving and receiving. So the maternal nature of the environment is recognized by matriarchies and gift economies. Mothered children who recognize the fact that they have been mothered and have participated in a gift economy can use this gift interaction when interpreting every other phenomenon in the world. An epistemology which interprets perception as the reception of gifts from our surroundings allows a respect for and appreciation of nature and gratitude for nature's gifts, in which we include our own capacity to receive, whether nature is personalized or not. Rather than dominating and instrumentalizing nature, gift economies and matriarchies cooperate with nature. So matriarchal societies have 4 different levels, and one is the economic level. At this level, matriarchal societies are most usually agricultural societies. However, they're not exclusively agricultural. In a matriarchal society, economically, goods circulate as gifts. This system prevents goods from being accumulated by one special person, and so it is a system of mutual aid, Wahine. And so the principles of economic equality are consciously maintained, and the society remains a non-accumulating and egalitarian or equitable society. The people enjoy perfect mutuality or Wahine, for every advantage or disadvantage in terms of acquiring goods is mediated by social guidelines. So, for example, at village festivals, the wealthy clans invite all the people in the village to be their guests. These wealthy clan members organize the festivities and give away their wealth as an unconditional gift to all their neighbors. They do not gain anything from it but honor. And then it becomes a little bit of a competition to see who gives away the most. Right. So matriarchies then create a balanced economy, which is the fundamental basis for peace. So matriarchies are societies of economic reciprocity, balance by gift giving. At the social level, matriarchies are founded on motherhood that are based on the clan. Motherhood is perceived as the most important function in each society, for mothering creates the new generations that are the futures of society. In matriarchies, it is not necessary to be a biological mother in order to be acknowledged as a woman, because matriarchies practice the common motherhood of a group of sisters. Each individual sister does not necessarily have children, and together they are all mothers of any children all the women. Matriarchal motherhood is founded on the freedom of women to decide on their own about whether or not to have biological children. Furthermore, each female is referred to as mother, which is an honorary title. In matriarchies, mothering, which originates as a biological fact, is accorded such great importance that it is transformed into a cultural model. People live in large kinship groups formed according to the principle of matrilineal. The women have the power of disposal of the goods, especially of the food. All goods are given to the clan mother, the matriarch, and she distributes them equally among the members of the clan. The different clans are connected to each other by marriage patterns, but marriage between 2 clans is not marriage between 2 individuals. It's rather a communal marriage, a bonding of 2 clans for an effective system of aid. In some of the most ancient systems, men practice visiting marriage, going to their lover's clan house to be with her, and they leave in the morning because they have rights and duties in the houses of their own mothers, and they are social fathers for the children of their sisters. Due to the additional patterns of marriage between all clans, everyone in a matriarchal village or town is related to everyone else, either by birth or by marriage. These nets of relationship are intentionally produced to form a big family of the people, where everybody is a mother or sister or brother to all, which results in creating bonds of love and care among equals. So matriarchies are non-hierarchical, horizontal societies of matrilineal kinship. At the political level, the decisive factor for a society of peace is the process of making political decisions. In matriarchal societies, political practice follows the principle of consensus, which means unanimity, yeah, I think I said that right, for each decision. Here I'm trying to learn Spanish and I can't even say half my English words right. Matriarchal societies are well organized to actualize this principle. So in the clan house, women and men meet in a council where domestic matters are discussed. Everybody has only one vote, even the matriarch, and no member is excluded. After thorough discussion, each decision is taken by consensus. This is then true at the village level. No decision concerning the whole village may be taken without the consensus of all clan houses. And then the same is applied at the regional level. And you have a lot to say about this from Andean culture. Mm-hmm. But we don't really have time tonight. So the source of all the politics then are the clan houses where the people live. And this is a way of true grassroots democracy put into practice. So the foundation for this political system is an economy of reciprocity based on gift giving and the big family. So matriarchal societies, again, are egalitarian, even-handed, and just societies of consensus. And at the level of culture, worldviews, and spirituality, such a system would not function as a whole if there were not a deep, supporting, and all-permeating spiritual attitude. At this level, matriarchal societies do not have religions based on a God who is invisible, untouchable, and off-planet, who is incomprehensible yet omnipotent. In matriarchy, divinity is immanent or inherent, for the whole world is regarded as divine, as feminine divine. Everything is endowed with divinity, so everything is spiritual. The festivals follow the cycles of the season, the cycle of life, and everything is celebrated. Nature in her manifold expressions, the different clans with their different tasks, the different genders and generations with their specific abilities, following the principle of diversity is wealth. So there is no separation between sacred and secular, and everyday tasks all have ritual significance. So matriarchal societies are societies and cultures of the feminine divine, the Mana Wahine. So these precepts show us how life can be organized in such a way that it is based on the unconditional fulfillment of needs, it is nonviolent, and it is simply humane. Economics, politics, social organization, and spirituality are interconnected, and the purpose of all is to provide a good life for everybody. And that is absolutely the purpose of Aloha Aini Dao living. Cohabitation, de Jesus, is a good life for everybody. The symbolic what? Sorry?
Including the planet. Not
yes.
Just everybody.
Right. Not just not just every human, everything, every living thing, everything. I mean, everything, everybody, and our more than human life world. So the symbolic matra clans integrate men fully and do so according to a set of values based on mutual care and love instead of the love of power over. And men actually have a better life in this kind of society because they're no longer sex agents and breadwinners. They're just equal.
Yeah.
They just have a job to do, or, they have a part to play in the whole, and they're an important part of the whole.
But they're not the responsible of the whole.
Right. Not by themselves. It's a community responsibility. Everybody responsibility.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So we have 6 minutes left if you want to touch on the politics of the Andean communities that aren't recognized as matriarchal, but they really are, because the way you explained them to me, they truly are.
Well, I was going to touch on how this is relevant because well, I guess the way we can join all of this is there are all the cultures that have this way of organization, and you would say, oh, this is great, and this is what I want to say. We tend to idolize native cultures, and I just saw today a post, right, that reminded me of something, and it's the fact that if you go to any indigenous nation right now, you're gonna find lots of problems, a lot of problems.
Yeah.
And not a single one of them is, or very scarcely, you'll find a group of someone that is not having one of these problems, right? And that's when this needs to, we can't no longer have the two worlds coexist. You know, there was a time when, and you explained it all along, especially in the first part of the conversation, where you made clear that this modern culture, call it patriarchal culture, is able to exist by means of taking away everything else from the native land, from the land,
Yeah.
right? So
by making other sacrifice.
Right. So maybe there was a time when, okay, well, we can sacrifice. Okay, already, go ahead, grow your cancer. But then we are at a time when these cultures, they are completely, have been driven to the very corners of their existence, and no longer can we continue with this cohabitation, in the sense of the patriarchal culture and the matriarchal culture coexisting, because one of them requires to kill the other for it to exist.
Exactly.
So very few people here will really have a grasp of on what the dimension of this is, and of this calling, and of Aloha Inidao living, because they're probably still stuck on trying to figure that out in their heads, and they need to make all the connections of how their privileges can be. They need to. I mean, obviously, this means that all this commodity lifestyle has to change, has to shift, and they just need to make all those single connections to see how, maybe it's better to have a great time with someone instead of a great, huge, big screen TV, right? And so they're thinking, oh, I'm going to have to give up my big, huge screen TV and my 1,000 plus channels if I do this. And like, yeah, and you're going to get a lot better company and a lot better time. You're going to be a lot happier and a lot less lonely.
Yeah.
With this shift. So those are the little connections that, a lot of people still need to make in order to, and I'm talking about this includes intellectuals and people that are supposedly very, very, very well informed or whatever, or experts in things, and they themselves put limits on how clear this because this to me and to you is completely evident and clear that the earth can no longer have this continue, and people
Right.
just need to start shifting into matriarchal culture, going back.
The entire cosmos can't, right? It's such a division. It's such an artificial division that the entire cosmos can't abide by the imbalance that humanity has created
Right.
in the field.
It's totally, I mean, it's insanity.
It's absolute insanity.
So once you get that, really you realize that, then you're gonna have all the motivation to do this shift, and then you're gonna see how big this is, and how, because and it's big not because you make it big or I make it big, or whoever chooses this makes it big. It's big because it's kind of like the only way that we can actually continue,
Yeah.
and that we must do in order to continue being here on this planet, and for this planet to continue being here, and it's going to continue because it's that big. It's
Yeah.
the planet cannot just give in to the crazy, the planet's not going to give in to
No.
sci-fi crazy visions and prophecies.
She's far more powerful than we are, and she has existed for far longer than we ever have, and she will continue on, right?
So it's just a matter of us choosing to continue with her, and then of course we as humans, I think we are going to want to say, hey, no, wait, no longer. This needs to stop. This craziness needs to stop. How do I stop it? Oh, maybe if I stop being crazy, like playing along with the craziness, maybe if I stop buying and consuming the craziness,
right,
then that's my first step. But that's a big, I mean, yeah, sure. After that, we can think about how do we help others shift and whatever, but we need to shift ourselves.
Well, yeah, and it's not a shift, because there's the MMM, triple M, the has been part of our lives for so many centuries that it's not something that we can just purge, right, and be done with. It's every step, as you've heard me say, every step. It started with last summer. My shift really started with saying, okay, how can I stop buying peat moss? Or how can I stop contributing to the consumerism? Well, first of all, I stopped buying potting soil or peat moss, because that, and you say, well, people will say, well, just one of you not buying peat moss isn't going to stop the peat bogs from being destroyed. Yeah, it will. Yeah, it will.
Right. Yeah. It's
because I made the decision to stop. So then after that, it comes,
and there's a multiple domino effects that occur when you actually make an action, because you're actually doing something. You're actually changing something. So your mind changes, other things change. There's a domino effect there that happens.
It absolutely is. Well, so then once you make that decision, one decision, then more and more and more decisions follow behind that, right? Mm-hmm. Then it's the whole thing of, understanding that the need for registering our vehicles and having insurance and on our houses and our cars is all part of that's not responsible behavior. Having insurance is abdicating my responsibility. If I have insurance, if I have good insurance, I don't have to watch where I'm driving, because insurance will just cover my fuck up if I cause you an accident.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
If I have insurance on, if everyone around me has insurance on their houses, it no longer calls on the neighborhood to help rebuild someone's house when the fire catches. It's, if there's a fire, if there's a house fire or something.
Wow, that's a good example.
It's a total, right? Once you start taking responsibility and saying, I'm going to stop this, then it becomes, and it gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And sometimes it gets overwhelming because there's so many decisions to step away from. And you're like, well, how can I step away from this? And you can't, sometimes we can't, it's so ingrained until we get our first 100 warrior learners of Adel. It's going to be a challenge. Because once we hit that 100 mark, then things will start to really shift.
Yeah.
Right? If 100 people not buying peat moss, 100 people not registering their vehicles, 100 people not purchasing insurance, 100 people not in one area. I'm sure there's with the Triple Crowns system and the people knowing more and more about the debt system, there's probably more and more who are not registering their vehicles anymore, and maybe, but I don't know about that, but there's no communication between those of us who are aware of this.
In the core, they're still isolated. That's the thing, right?
Isolated, individual isolation.
Right. And that's what, and that's what the healing you're offering is, the coming together and creating community.
Right.
With
we have to. We just have to. So, and then from there it goes beyond that. I mean, there's just so much. It's just like, wow.
Yeah, and it's exciting. I mean, it's getting on the path of you can actually do something instead of just staying on the path of that. What can I entertain myself with? Because I'm so bored because my life is useless. I'm a useless eater.
Yeah.
As I've been given that tag by my overlords.
Yeah. I'm looking. I saw it on. I'm not seeing it now, but a meme. Just crossed Facebook, and I've seen it before. Just before we started this, I forget which person it's accredited to, but it said, before you heal someone, you have to ask if you go out to heal someone, you have to ask if they're willing to be healed, to give it. And that's what I've been saying lately. Like, I just had a conversation with a young female friend who's same age as my daughter. And she tells me, I hate my monthly cycles because they just hurt, and they always have hurt. They've just been hell since the day I started them. And I said, well, that's too bad, because they're not meant to be. And that was the first time anyone's ever said to her, your monthly menstrual cycle is not meant to be painful. Never was.
Oh, wow.
So then when she asked, well, what can I do? I said, well, first of all, the first thing you have to decide in your mind is that you're willing to let your menstrual cycles be pain-free.
You gotta
people don't understand possible. That's the biggest step right there.
You gotta
They're
believe.
Like, well, of course I'm willing to be healthy. No, you're not, because you like to complain about your issues. So first of all, you have to set the intention that you're willing to allow yourself to be free, to be healthy, whole, and complete.
Yeah. Well, there goes a lot of information, and we're gonna continue right with this exciting path. What's the next conversation about?
Next week, we're going to talk about mind, the ecology of consciousness.
Okay, so that just what you were kind of touching on right now, how the mind is a crucial part in all of this, and this believing and imagining and knowing it's possible. It's a difficult first step, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Cool. So with that, that's all been said, and we're done, I guess,
Yeah,
for
we're
today.
done for tonight.
We'll see you folks next week if you want to join us, and please participate and become a warrior at Aloha Nidao Living. So
A warrior learner. Why do you mean to be a warrior learner? Well, because it takes the discipline of a warrior to learn something new, to allow yourself to unlearn everything and to relearn.
Okay. Well, there's the invitation. So see you soon, everyone. Thank you.